this one. And why not this one? Because tonight we are bringing you wheel-to-wheel Formula 3 action that thus far has provided some fantastic racing, just as Tim mentioned a moment ago. Now, Tim, I understand you've had the calculator out, you've the Excel sheets, the pivot tables, all the rest of it. Maybe you've even done some kind of big data visualization, but I think you've got some predictions on how this might end tonight.
Yeah, that's right, Nick. So I've had the calculator out. I've been number crunching furiously before the race, and here are some stats for you. So, Will Mason currently sitting second in the championship. Let's just ride on board with Will at the moment as he looks to set his qualifying lap. Cranswick currently looking top of the top of the leaderboard at the moment. So, Will is the only person who can take the championship away from Matt Laubscher. However, to do so, he must win tonight. If he doesn't, and finishes in second place or lower, then the championship goes to Matt Laubscher. Now, if Will wins, then Matt Laubscher must finish 17th place or higher, and he will secure the championship. Simple, but nice and simple. So we'll be keeping an eye on Laubscher to see whereabouts he finishes. And I'd imagine, based on previous performance, he'll be higher than 17th. And Will Mason, well, we're just going to wait for him and hope that he comes home with the victory.
That's right. We've seen some absolutely brilliant stuff from these guys. They've been absolutely wheel to wheel, and that has cost people races. For example, I think Gavin Petty, who was riding right at the front of the pack in Donington, was one that suffered at the later stages of the race and put it into the wall, unfortunately, just after the old hairpin. Now, we're currently just following John Dobson at the moment. Oh, it looks like John's just had a bit of an accident there and headed off track into the final section of the circuit. We'll go back on with John maybe in a little bit. He's actually coming into his, I think that's the end of his second lap. So he's done an out lap, I believe. And this will be now his final opportunity to set a qualifying time. So perhaps we can just ride on board with John possibly in a moment, or maybe another driver, or another driver. If we get somebody, perhaps Tim, that is starting a lap, we'll try and cover.
Let's see who we've got. Here we go, Marcus Hudson, who we should be able to ride on board with him here, and we'll take on the lap and see. We've got the lines on there for you, so you can see the ideal line. Let's see how he compares up.
Okay, so he's heading up towards Druids here. This is a tight second gear bend heading in right, trying to keep it nice and tidy for a good exit out up into Graham Hill bend. This is an easy one to get wide on, and he spun it round there. Now, the conditions when I was practicing on this, Tim, they were actually quite warm. It was the temperature, the sim time was set at June the 10th, or June, early June, at about 10 in the morning, and that did result in some slightly warmer temperatures, which these cars don't always react very well to. I personally was all over the place. I couldn't really get out of the 117s as I was heading around here, despite having tried a number of different setups to try and get myself around really quickly. Now, this fast right-hander here, it's really hard to gauge what speed you need in the early laps, because it's ever so easy to carry too much pace into there and end up right on the grass, which ultimately will result in you being in the wall. Again, a lot of these corners are very, very difficult to replicate the same line every lap, especially here where you're going in blind. A lot of grass being taken on the inside there by Marcus Hudson. And in the third gear corner, left-hander there, you really want to get on the throttle as early as possible to drive fast out of there as you come into the braking zone early there, just as the hits curve, and then down into fourth, and then try to carry the speed round that wide right-hander as fast as you can, then into the final straight, trying to set a good time. Unfortunately, Marcus there obviously had that spin earlier in the lap, which is going to result in him starting further down the back of the pack. I believe that's all of his laps used up possibly there.
No, he's still got
starting
one
another one, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got one left to go next, so there's still a chance for him yet.
Yeah, hopefully. Let's see how he does this time round. So into Graham Hill, pretty tidy there. He managed to keep it on the tarmac there. So good stuff from Marcus. We'll keep just watching him here from a slightly different view, but as we see him go around there, some great great shots here provided to us, obviously, by trackcams22.com. As we've said in previous broadcasts, we've spoken about the angles that they've been able to give us here on all of the broadcast and media work that we've done with the races in our leagues. Now, the championship standings as it is at the moment, I'll just read those out to you. We've got Matt Lucia at the top with 187 points, and then, as you said earlier, Tim, there's Will T Mason behind him at 151 points, just following, keeping his nose in the battle, trying to keep it close to Lucia. But Lucia's not made it easy with all those wins in the early portion of the season. Jerome Lamy comes up in third with 109 points, and then Gavin Petty in fourth, followed by Chris Rowlands, James Cockram, Ben Cullen, Stuart Milne, Lee Aberdeen, Josh Wilson, Nick Bell, Carl Cranswick, Duncan Roberts, Edmond Webb, Kieran Fishlock, Patrick Bennett, Joe Turner McMullen, Rudy Marai, Chris Foskett, and John Dobson in 20th. So the top point score at the minute 187, and the bottom, well, the 20th. I've only read out the top 20 there. We do have a few more, but that's the top 20 for you. But the number 20, there's 27 points, so an enormous gap of 160 points between the top scorer there and the P20 runner of John Dobson, who we were just following, obviously on board with a few moments ago. Now, we've had some awesome races this season, and that's thanks to the Formula 3 vehicle provided by, obviously, Dallara. Now, this car, we'll give it a little bit of a comparison here to a Golf GTI. So car weight of the Dallara is 550 kilograms with a driver, and a Golf GTI is 1,800, so that's 1,800 kilograms. That's 3.5 times heavier than these Dallara F3s, and it's only a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder 16-valve naturally aspirated engine, so no turbos, no funny business in there, and those are running at 220 horsepower of power, which compared to that Golf again is that's 242 brake horsepower in the Golf. So obviously the weight difference and obviously that power balance there, just to give you some indication, you can get a lot more out of a light car with the same power. So these things are incredibly quick and nimble around the circuit. Now, here is the results for qualifying. You've got Jerome Lamy on pole, followed by Will Mason in second. I'm sure Will's going to be giving Jerome a challenge into the early stages of this race. Then on the second row behind them, we've got Lee Aberdeen, a strong runner from the early phases, who we haven't seen put in a very strong result in the later portions of this league. And then he's got Gavin Petty for company. Also on the second row with him, there's James Cockram, Chris Rowlands, Carl Cranswick, Josh Wilson, Chris Foskett, Samuel Hooper, Duncan Roberts, and Marcus Hudson in 12th there. Now, these drivers are going to be getting ready now they're all gridding up and preparing themselves for the start of this race. There's just the rest of the grid for you there. We've got John Dobson in 13th, Patrick Bennett in 14th, Matt Lucia starting way down the grid there in 15th. And then 16th, Ben Cullen, and then finally Edmond Webb. Yeah, Matt Lucia, what's he doing back at the back there? Is he just trying to make it difficult for himself, just to make it a bit more fun?
Based on the numbers, Nick, hashtag spoiler alert, I do believe, from my number crunching, that as long as he, I think he's guaranteed the championship now, but I think we're just about to get away here, Nick.
Green.
Now, Tim. And they're away. It looks like we've got a clean start at the minute. I can't see anybody going up. It's very, very early to be saying that kind of thing. And we've got a really great start there from Jerome Lamy. He's absolutely galloped out in front with Will Mason. Oh, we've got a crash there at the back. That looks like Carl Cranswick absolutely dropping down the order at the moment. Carl Cranswick, an awful crash there at the start of this race. It's a real shame to see from him after he had such a great round here when he was in the skippies. Now we're going to keep going here with the guys at the front. Jerome Lamy having an absolutely commanding lead. A little bit of a squirm there as he came out of Graham Hill Bend, and then Will Mason only 6'10" off him behind, and Gavin Petty also keeping the pressure on Will Mason. Look at these guys, absolutely in a perfect line of Formula 3, staying incredibly close to one another. There's cars 20 and Mr. was behind him. Oh, we've got a dive there on the inside into the Hawthorne bend. That's a fantastic move there. Great stuff to be seen from these Formula 3 drivers. Jerome Lamy still out in front, followed by Will Mason. We've got Duncan Roberts dropping down a little bit there, possibly just losing in place. We're going to go on board here. It looks like he's been passed there by Chris Foskett. Managed to get past him in the late stages of the first lap, and Chris Foskett really staying close to the back there of James Cockram in this first lap. Great start from him, and Duncan Roberts now just having to bide his time here in 7th as they come into the final corner. Some great racing from these guys. It looks like Carl Cranswick the only major casualty, but we have got Josh Wilson, who appears to have dropped down a little bit as well. Just one place, I believe, for Josh Wilson. Samuel Hooper being one of the losers there with -5 places on the first lap. I think we've got somebody just going off track there at the first corner. That is
Hudson.
6,000. Oh, that's Hudson. Fantastic. We were watching Hudson on the qualifying lap, and he was having a little bit of trouble at points of this circuit. Looks like turn 1's been a bit too much for him there. Now Jerome Laney's still holding on to that lead at the moment, with Will Mason just edging in behind him at half a second. But Jerome just managing to hold that gap at the moment. Mason hasn't been able to close it up, and that means that Gavin Petty has potentially got a chance of closing in on Will Mason for a chance at some more points in the final stage.
But Nick, sorry to cut across you, mate. Look at Matt Laubscher, already from the back of the grid. He's already, so I think someone went wide there. He's already, Matt Laubscher, already up to 8th place. Absolutely stunning start there from Matt. And let's see if we can just have a look to see what happened at the start. Let's get the... Here we go. Here we go.
So here he is.
So that's Josh Wilson in the middle of the pack there. Said he had an incident. Oh, there's already an incident in front of him there.
It was Carl. So Carl actually lost it all by himself on turn 1, and then picked up Josh Wilson, who then dropped back down the order. So that is a real shame for Josh, just getting caught up in that after he had some fantastic races in some of the previous rounds. We'll have a little look at some of Josh's results in a minute.
Yeah, sort of think back to Watkins Glen, absolutely stunning race that I covered with you, Nick. Just wall-to-wall overtakes there, down the back straight there, and it was absolutely great night. If the viewers haven't caught that one yet, it's well worth going back and watching. As I just seen that Cullen's made a pass on Hudson there for 10th place. But yeah, Josh was involved in many a battle. It was literally overtakes after overtakes. Obviously, the drivers where they were utilising the slipstream. Obviously, Brands doesn't have such a large straight compared to what Watkins does, but we've already got lots of close action up and down the field, Nick. Let's go and take a look at Marcus Hudson. He's currently in a bit of a free-car battle here, Nick.
Okay, you were just mentioning Ben Cullen, and you also mentioned Watkins Glen. That was actually the race where 13 places Ben Cullen made up. But yeah, a brilliant little battle we've got going on here. Yeah, Marcus Hudson under pressure here from Patrick Bennett behind him, only 3/10. So Patrick will have a brilliant chance at having a run on Marcus as they head down the pit straight here. Let's see what Patrick Bennett can get done. 2/10 the gap now. Can he get it done under braking? It will be a very brave move into turn 1, and I don't think he's done it. He's backed off a little bit, the gap just opening up, but that means that Edmond Webb behind is going to be able to have a little look now and get in on this fight. And now it's not even just a 3-way fight, I believe it could be. Oh, we've got a car off there.
Oh, that's Jerome Lamy. Let's
Jerome Lamy.
Let's see if we can try and cut to that, see what happened there, Nick.
That's unfortunate for Jerome. We've seen incidents from him before. Here he is, just on the right-hander here of Druids, and he's gone a little bit too wide, and that's unfortunately just chucked him onto the grass and spun him round. That's a real shame for Jerome, but if we know him well, he will be charging back up the field. But let's see, did he manage? He waited very patiently.
Got away. It's so painful when you sat there just watching the whole field come past you, Nick, and he's all the way down right at the back now.
Fair play to him, though. That is real sportsmanship from Jerome. Oh, look at that. There's a move there going up the inside. But it looks like they were getting incredibly close there. Let's see. Can we bring an onboard footage here, Tim, maybe, just so we can see something on the what these guys are up to?
You asked for it, Nick.
Marcus Hudson. He's the guy that's under threat. But here's Edmond Webb. He gets to watch the entire battle from behind. So Edmond Webb there, prime seating. He hasn't had to pay for it either. He's just sitting back here and thinking, can I make a move? And there he goes up the inside. He's going up the inside on turn 1. He's incredibly brave there. He's kept it tight. He's a little bit bumpy on the curves there, but he's got the move done. That's fantastic work from Edmond Webb. He's got past Patrick Bennett, who was the current threat to Mark Hudson until that point. So great work from Edmond Webb. Let's see if Edmond can now chase on for Mark Hudson, who obviously had that incident where he went off track a little bit earlier. Now, I believe Chris Rowlands is going to be coming under threat from Ben Cullen possibly in a minute, but Chris also chasing hard behind Chris Foskett, I believe, at the moment. Let's see if we can go over to him. There we are, just with Chris now. And we've got some great views here. Again, thanks to TrackCams 22 for providing us with the angles for all this racing. Some great stuff here from Chris Rowlands. He's chasing hard up the hill and around that tight right hand there into the trailing the last portion of the lap. Now, Matt Lucia up in 6th now, and he's only 4/10 behind Roberts, who I'm sure he'll be chomping away and looking at that gap actually coming down now to 2/10. So I think Matt Lucia will be ready for a move on Roberts very, very soon. In fact, I think we should probably try and see if we can go over to Lucia now. Actually, I think that move will be imminent in a moment. There we go.
There we go. Just caught it in time.
Yeah, just in time. I could see the gap was coming down. I knew we needed to go to at some point. That's a great little shot that we got there of Lucia just tucking it up the inside of Roberts. He knows his place on the grid, Matt Lucia, and he's making his way up there.
Nicky,
really
just
a bit of a show of force, isn't it?
Cut across you there, Nick. Sorry, he was the fastest Mackin on track by the long way. Last time around, Matt Lucia set a 1 minute 15.94 second lap. The closest lap to him was a 1 minute 16.4. So Matt Lucia, definitely a man on a mission here. Over half a second quicker last time around. Currently your fastest man on track.
He was quicker than that, I think, in the practice sessions as well. I'm sure we saw him in the lower port and the lower 15s, you know. So,
Nick, let's go across. We've got an interesting battle happening here. We've got Cullen, and he's got Chris Rowlands for company as well, and Foskett as well, just in front of him.
Yeah, this is what we were following a little while ago. So it actually looks like Ben Cullen's gotten past Chris Rowlands because he was behind Rowlands before. And there's Ben Cullen now putting the pressure on Foskett. So Cullen clearly the faster out of the middle pack at the moment. And look at him go, looking for every bit of space he can get. Late on the brakes on the inside of Druids, and another overtake in the same place that we saw where Matt Lucia just took a place to get himself up into 5th. So great work there from Ben Cullen. He's kept it nice and tidy. And now Chris Rowlands can get ready to go back on the attack if he wants to on Foskett, which is obviously what Chris was attempting to do a few moments ago before he was rudely interrupted by Cullen, who's now propelled himself into 2nd place. So great driving there from Ben. Now let's see what Mr. Foskett can do against Mr. Rowlands as he comes up nice and close behind him. He's just keeping it nice and tidy there, Chris, into the little sector, and we're going around the very delicate section. And there goes Foskett off the track on the left hand side. That's opened it up for Rowlands. He's managed to slip by, no problems at all. And there he goes now. He's got a gap to Foskett behind. It's not going to concern him too much, and maybe a chance to start chasing Ben Cullen down again.
Let's get a better angle of that one, Nick. It was a lovely view of the trees there, and just watching Foskett. Yeah, there we go. This one will be better. Here we go. You can see exactly what happened. He's just run a bit wide, and yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So unfortunate. These three I know get on very well off track, and yeah, they'll be good that the battle wasn't going to continue for the rest of the race. But Nick, just heading back further up the field, let's take a little look at Matt Lucia. It looks like he's got James Cochran right behind him for company.
He has. So James Cochran chasing very closely behind. Now Matt Lucia was. He must have actually just taken that position. I think if you look on the activity screen, you'll probably see that there's an overtake event for that, because Matt Lucia had only just gotten past into 5th place a moment ago. So he's just climbing his way up the order comfortably, and obviously very much enjoying himself in the process. Edmond Webb currently in the pits at the moment, so he's headed in to take his mandatory pit stop. If it is a bit early possibly, but these cars are on a 60% fuel limit, so maybe Edmund's dropped down the order for another reason. Perhaps we'll manage to get to that in a moment. Now, Gavin Petty is just hanging on from Will Mason ahead of him at the moment by half a second, so the gap there very close still, and Lee Aberdeen closing in on Gavin Petty also at the moment. So we've got a three-way fight for the lead but it does look to me like Will Mason is the driver at the moment who's more comfortable at the front. We're with Marcus Hudson here on your screens now, just heading round turn 1 up the hill now into Druids as they go around that right-hander, which we've seen claim a couple of cars. We've also seen an overtake or two there as well so far this evening. Some absolutely fantastic work for all the drivers here on the grid. Now, Tim, I think we should possibly have a look over at Duncan Roberts. There's only a 10th now. Oh no, wait, we're on.
You've got Roberts right behind Hudson here.
I'm in power for a moment there. They're really coming in. Here we go. On clearways.
Here
Big
goes
diver.
Roberts.
He's going to make it to the inside. He's got it done. It looks like we're going to force him to the outside here. Hudson now having to concede that place. That is a shame for Marcus Hudson. He's been really strong to this point, but Roberts just absolutely sending it on the inside there.
Wrong Roberts, mate. Dom Roberts is GT3. It's Duncan Roberts this week. That's all confused. They all begin with D. Dom Roberts, another one of our really strong drivers. He's had a brilliant outing in GT3 Pro-Am, and clearly there's something to do with the Roberts surname, and especially when the initial starts with D. Clearly means a bit of a byword for quality racer.
They're not related like the Hitchens, are
they?
No,
there's no relations going on there. But let's take a little look at this. Where's the battle? Sorry, I said Foskett. Yeah, we've got Foskett and Jerome Lamey here, and Lamey all over the back of Foskett.
Lamey's claimed back loads of places. Look at him in 9th place after obviously having dropped back a load of time after that accident, and then he's just slotted it to the inside there. Foskett's just thought, I'm not going to have this fight. There's no point. We know he's going to get past at some point. Just let him muscle his way in and have his way. So that's that really from Lamey. He's going to be chasing Chris Rowlands next. So let's see how much time he can chew out. We're currently on lap 10 out of 35 there, and there's a 5-second gap between Lamey and Rowlands. We'll see what that is in a couple more laps. Now, Tim, at the front of the pack, the gap is really starting to tighten up again. So there's currently only 3/10 between, they're all within about a second of each other actually at the front. Look at this as they go into Druids. This is incredible. We need to stay with these guys for a few minutes. Look at this.
Really hotting up the battle at the front, like you say, Nick. Less than a second covering our top 3. It's so getting for Will Mason. He's doing absolutely everything to perfection to try and win the championship. Obviously, with the, if he takes the win or he comes inside the top 3, then it pretty much guarantees himself a second place in the championship. But it's a shame we didn't have 1 or 2 extra drivers tonight, because it really would have spiced up the battle and add a bit of extra unpredictability as to whether he could have taken the fight to Matt Laubscher for the championship title. But it's, like you say, with a great battle like this for 1st, 2nd and 3rd, it doesn't matter so well for the viewers at home. It doesn't matter so much. We're just here to see some great racing, and these drivers literally less than a 10th separating them last time around in terms of lap time. But it's Aberdeen looking to make the move on Gavin Petty.
He's giving it a good go, isn't he, Tim?
He is.
It's really tight between Petty and Aberdeen, and that's going to allow now Will Mason actually just to eat that gap out a little bit. Look, Will Mason just has managed to grow the gap. He was much closer to Petty on the last lap as they entered Druids, and now that has increased substantially. And now I think Aberdeen looking like the fightier driver here. Obviously, you said there, Will Mason doesn't want to lose out on points, because if for some reason Laubscher was to drop out, I think obviously would be out on points. Well, I mean, even if he finishes in 17th, he could probably still win if he doesn't finish the race. But Aberdeen here, as we ride on board, it's an incredible view that we get here from Trackhouse 22, and as he chases behind Gavin Petty down clearways to the right-hander for Ben. So this is a
Nick Soko across. I think we're going to have a move here from Edmond Webb, and he's swapping places with John Dobson here.
Got it done up the inside. Look at that. Fantastic work from Edmond Webb. We've seen him up and down the grid. He was in the pits much earlier than the rest of these guys, so I wonder if he's going to have to make another stop anyway at some point, Tim. But that's some excellent driving from Edmond Webb. John Dobson's still quite close behind him. Maybe we'll go back to that in a little while if the gap gets a little bit closer again. Now, the front runners looking a little bit more evenly spaced out than they did a minute ago. That gap has come down from Will Mason to Gavin Petty by 3/10 compared to where it was last lap. That just tells you what the difference might be between Gavin Petty and Will Mason's speed there. And then another half a second behind them is Lee Aberdeen. So they're staying relatively well spaced out. They've been a bit racy at points where one guy's made an error, maybe somebody's trying to capitalise on it. But right now, they might be thinking to themselves, why don't we just keep it real, take it easy on the fuel, let's make the most of Will being in front of us and take that slipstream. We're going to go on board here with Lee Aberdeen as we watch him as he's just come out of Surtees now up to Pilgrim's Drop. We're going to be heading into that fast right-hander at Hawthorne Bend and then into the Derek Wood Straight. The following section of the track gets incredibly tricky, as we know, with Westfield Bend being incredibly delicate with cars heading off to the left sometimes and into that wall. The next section is also very quickly Machines being a quick right-hander that's easy to get a wheel on the grass there on the left, but Lee Aberdeen keeping it incredibly tight as he finally then heads into Stirling's with a nice clean exit clearways. And then finally the Clark curve where Gavin Petty is getting incredibly close to the back of Will Mason as they go now into the Brabham Straight.
I don't
think it's going to be the place.
Don't think it's going to get it done here. We're just going to cut across Chris Foskett and Duncan Roberts, who are the next closest drivers together on track. That's Foskett running very wide there, and this is going to give Roberts the opportunity, and he's through.
Roberts, fantastic little move there. He saw it and he took it. He thought, absolutely, you want to take the grass, you want to take the slow route, I'll take the quick route on the tarmac, mate. Cheers very much for the place. So that's some excellent driving there from these guys. So Chris Foskett, unfortunately, losing out to Mr. Roberts there. I think Foskett will be up for a fight there, and he'll be trying to take that back in a moment as we have a little look here at James Cochran.
Oh, he's got Ben Cullen behind him, keeping him company, Nick, and these guys here are pretty similar. Ben didn't set a time during qualifying, although that is a trait of his, where he likes to try and start from the back regularly. I know he does it in a lot of the official races as well, and just likes to pick his way through the pack. And he started in 16th place, Nick. He's currently up 10 places already, Ben Cullen.
The only person that beats him is Matt Lubscher for places gained. And we've got him off the track there. We've just cursed him. Luckily, he's survived. He just went off there into, I think that was the Westfield Bend, was it?
There we go. You just see at the top of the corner, just car got really twitchy, and that was the end of that one. We've had Samuel Hooper's had a bit of an incident. Let's go and check in and see what happened to Samuel. So apparently he's had a crash somewhere on track, and let's see. So easily done, Nick, where he just has hard onto the brakes into that corner, and it doesn't show it obviously from that camera angle, but the track goes uphill and it's so easy to lose the rear end there.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, if you get the braking wrong there, you can either go too deep and end up a little bit on the grass on the right hand side, or too wide and maybe pick a bit of curve on the exit. But yeah, you can also. We've got Duncan Roberts spinning. That's unfortunate. He's kept it off out of the wall though, so that's great for Duncan. He's got no damage. He's going to have to try and get it underway again, and he's managed to do that. Safely rejoins the track. We've got someone there on the inside.
Place. He's falling right down the order here, Nick, and I just cut to it because I saw that they were really close on track, and it was himself and Foskett, and I think it was Lamey, and curse of the commentator strikes again. But let's talking to Chris Foskett. Let's just check him out as he's
gone off track as well.
He's running a bit wide there.
That was just a little bit of
kicking up a bit of dust there. He's got Marcus Hudson behind him. He's currently up 2 places and into 10th place, around about a second down. And just look at the timing tower there, Nick. Matt Laubscher setting the new fastest lap of the race, a 1:15.48. The first person to break the 15.5 second barrier. And wow, Matt Laubscher, he's been at it all season long, and yet again he's setting fastest laps after fastest laps.
And that makes, fastest lap is no surprise really when you see where he is now on the grid at 3rd place after having been starting as far back as he had. So Matt Laubscher putting in the same performance that we've always seen from. We've got a spinner. That's Chris Foskett. He's just spun it. The Graham Hill bend there. He's just got.
That's allowed Marcus Hudson through there, and wow, surprisingly, still seeing quite a Foskett's lost another place. He's lost one to Samuel Hooper. We've just seen going through there, and such a shame for Foskett. he's had a decent race up until now, and it all seems to be falling apart a little bit for him there. And it seems to be a few mistakes catching in from the drivers, and you know, it's just we've had a couple of spins early on, but these F3 cars, they do take a little while for the tyres to warm up. Good, about 4 laps, and Nick, just let's cast our eyes across to near the front as the battle between Will Mason and Lee Aberdeen continues. Right about 8 tenths of a second, the gap between these two drivers at the moment.
Well, we've obviously missed the overtake from Lucia and Petty, because Petty was the one that was in contention for a top 3 spot. So yeah, we'll see if we can find that.
Let's see if we can find that one.
Will Mason, there was actually a gap of over a second between Mason and Aberdeen, so something's obviously been going on.
So Petty's gone off track, Nick. Let's take a little look. I think that was there we go.
Oh, we put a back wheel out on the exit of Druitt. It's exactly where Jerome Lamy went off as well. So
it is. It seems to be catching the drivers out, and that's what's
even catching the quick guys out. So
that's just so that allowed obviously Lucia and Lee Aberdeen through.
Yeah, so that's what's now given Lee Aberdeen free license to start charging hard here at Will Mason. Now he's within a second, and let's see if he can bring that gap down a little bit more over the course of the next lap.
We've got the battle between Cockram and Cullen. Cullen's he's gradually reining him in. The gap down to about 3/4 of a second right now, and he's getting closer and closer, and it's probably going to be with the next lap or 1 or 2 laps. I think we could see Cullen look to make the move.
Okay, well, we'll stay on board here with Cullen at the moment. This is a great move we've got here. So he's nice and tidy there through Graham Hill Bend ahead up towards Surtees. Now let's see how Ben takes this in. We've seen people spin here. It is challenging with to get the good exit line and top speed one out of here as they head now into Pilgrim's Drop. So a long straight here, picking up a little bit of slipstream for the car in front, but it doesn't look like Ben's managed to keep it too close at the moment. He's getting into the long, fast right-hander there, and then another right here, which is where it starts to get more technical. Ben, though, able to keep it nice and tidy on the track. Now, it doesn't look really to me like he's closed that gap up too much, still within 3/10. Oh, he's quicker through the final sector, isn't he, Ben, by the looks of it?
He's a lot quicker, so he's making his time up there.
Flying, so maybe actually it's that final sector where he's just winding himself up and getting himself ready to be in a premium position for that overtake. So he takes it easy through the first portion of the lap, lures you into a false sense of security.
Someone in the pits, that's Duncan Roberts there that's entered the pits, and also Gavin Petty.
Gavin Petty's
in the pit. Nick, just looking at Ben Cullen's picture there, properly on point for his driver picture. He's got, I know he as a track car, a Renault Clio 182, and as you can see there, it's at Brands Hatch, a track that I know that he absolutely loves, and really putting that real life knowledge to use here, and as he launches the attack on James Cockram for P4.
Yeah, a true racer here in Ben Cullen. Obviously, Ben's still got to take his mandatory pit stop. These cars on a 60% fuel limit. I'm sure he'll be ready to dive in for that soon. We've got the likes of Petty and Roberts, obviously, who are some of the stronger runners here, but they've dived in and gone for that stop already. Gavin Petty currently on the pit exit. I wonder if Petty had any damage. We're going to go to a replay of Dobson.
He's had a bit of an incident, Nick, and let's see
what's happened to him there. Like his front wing just
yet again.
Off.
The same corner that's caught everyone out pretty much all night, Nick. That's Druitt. And yeah, another victim has fallen foul of Druitt.
Yeah, these cars obviously incredibly sensitive. So look, Cockram's jumped into the pits, which has released Ben Cullen. So Ben's now going to be able to have some clean air to drive around in and see if he can perhaps make up a bit of distance.
Oh, Nick, sorry to cut across you, mate. Matt Lauscher's had an incident. Let's take a look and see what's happened here. So he's just coming around into the last corner. Has he carried too much speed and got it onto the... Yeah, he has. There he goes. And
he's kept it out the wall crucially, though.
Yes, but so unlucky because he slid past the pit entry. So it's not like he could have just parked it on the inside and potentially taken his pit stop early. And that's so unlucky there from Matt Lauscher. We've seen absolutely brilliant driving from him all season long.
One thing to bear in mind there, I don't think anybody got past him, did they? So
no, Cullen's still in 4th place, but the gap has closed. So it'd be interesting to see when, obviously, after the round of pit stops, Cockram is down in 8th place, and all the drivers ahead of him yet to take their pit stops. So it'll be interesting to see after Cullen and Lauscher take their pit stops how Cockram comes out in amongst them.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think with Lucia's mistake there, it's not really going to cost him anything at all, is it? I think Ben Cullen's probably going to be doing enough here. As long as he gets the pit stop entry right and he gets a nice clean pit stop, Ben Cullen, I think, will quite happily jump Mr. Cockram. He looked like the faster car on track, and that outlap was relatively strong from Ben. I think, that lap that he did, obviously, just after he decided not to start the pitch, was a 1:16.3, so he's still doing very strong laps out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him ahead of Cockram after he takes his pit stop. And Jerome Laney, now in 6th position, he's managed to close that gap to Chris Rowlands by 2 seconds. I believe it was about 5 seconds last time we checked on it, so Jerome clawing away a bit of time there.
Clearing on the back marks. I think that's Dobson there coming past there.
Mason just getting past, isn't it?
Incredibly wide there. Let's have a quick look. So that was John Dobson just coming off track there in the background. And Nick, should we go back and just refresh your memory and take a look at what happened at the start?
Yeah, let's go for a little look at the front runners here. So we obviously had Jerome Lamy starting, and look at this. It's a very slow start there from P4 dropping down the order a little bit, and then nice clean run from the front three there. Great. And then there's obviously that incident with Carl, which involved Josh
Wilson and Carl Cranswick, that was.
First lap. So unfortunately that was the only incident we had, so grateful that we didn't lose more cars on that opening lap. But these guys had a great start. It was nice and clean and a good way to start the final round. As we now go over to Gavin Petty, who's behind Samuel Hooper. Now Gavin, obviously having been in for his pit stop, he's currently just trying to claw a few places back and make his way back up the order and try and be in a premium position to finish in the top three by the end of this race. 14 laps to go. Oh, and he was quite close there. He's getting a bit impatient there behind Mr. Hooper.
He's definitely not wanting to hang around here, Nick.
Yeah, let me through. I've got a race to run and you're not in it. At least what he's saying in that, under that helmet, isn't he? He'll be right on board with him. Let's see if Sam Hooper lets him through. I think, to be honest, Gavin really here just needs to try and line it up, doesn't he? He's a lot later on the brakes than Sam there. And that's what's
get out the accelerator there, Nick. You can hear the engine note just sort of dip there as Petty carrying so much more speed, and here we go. Looks like he's going to send it up the inside, Nick, but no, he can't get the move done.
Hooper defending for his life there, but I mean, this.
He's
got off.
Oh no, Gavin Petty! He tried to send it round the outside. Hooper went defensive, and looks like that's a damaged front wing there, Nick, as well.
That's going to be Gavin Petty's race pretty much over. He's already had his pit stop, and he's not really going to. I don't think he's really going to be too interested in going back out with only 13 laps to go and having to wait for a repair. So yeah, that's Gavin Petty. It says out there, so that's it. It's over for Gavin Petty. That's a shame. He was running at the front. Sam Hooper, clearly the slower driver of the two there, and that's just.
Just on the right hand side there, just over braked himself. Trying to really push to get the move done on Hooper, and unfortunately just pushed that little bit too hard, locked up, and just kept going straight on.
Sometimes you do have to be patient, but Sam was defending quite hard there for a position, and Gavin Petty is, he's one of the fastest drivers here, and of course he wants to get through, so you can't blame him for that. As we see Lee Aberdeen, P2
he's
driving into the pits, so he's pulled the trigger. He's going to see if he can get the undercut done here on Will Mason, and that will be the interesting thing to see. So what we'll have to do is when Will Mason comes in for his pit stop, we'll have to flick the camera over to Lee Aberdeen to see what happens. Let's go back over here to Sam Hooper again here on the camera.
Just caught the grass there, Nick, and I think that's just in the whereabouts on track. I think it's that Sheens or Sterling.
Sheens,
Sheens. And it's such a tricky corner, that, Nick, because it's a blind entry to it, and it's so easy to run the car just that little bit too wide, where you're trying to carry as much speed and momentum through the corner, and it's just caught him out there.
Lee Aberdeen back out on track. He had to take a little bit of fuel being hitting a little bit later in this race. So 12 laps to go. He's had a nice quick stop. He's back out in third position. He's pitted on lap 23. Matt Lucia has got still to pit now. Mason ahead of him as well. So will Lee Aberdeen be able to make a difference in the outlaps here? Will he be able to get ahead of the other runners as they take pit stops? But Matt Lucia, obviously a guy that we know. For
there you go. Sorry, Nick. Mason's in the pit lane.
Just dived in. Yeah, he's just dived in. So we'll follow Lee Aberdeen for the remainder of this lap, because obviously this is going to be the P1 or /P2. If Matt Lucia is obviously staying out at the moment by the looks of it, I don't see him diving to the pit lane. So that means that
he's taken the provisional lead there, and
taking pole at the moment.
Let's see where Lee Aberdeen comes out.
Lee Aberdeen coming into the pit straight now, and it looks like Will Mason hasn't even got on the pit exit yet, and that looks to me like Lee Aberdeen has managed to overtake, and so is Chris Rowlands here, but obviously Chris
still in the pit lane, Nick.
So Will Mason, does he have a little bit of damage or something?
Oh,
or
just
a penalty, or
just wondering that he hasn't got caught out by speeding into the pit lane or something like that. Because
Jerome
I'm looking.
Lamy's in as well now, so Jerome Lamy is technically in fourth now according to this. So if Mason doesn't get out ahead of Lamy, then I would think.
Take a look at Mason's. This is Will. Sorry, that's Jerome Lamy, isn't it? I'm trying to find. Will Mason's enter pit lane. Here we go. Let's see if he locked it up and entry or anything like that. There you go. That's why, Nick.
Unsafe entry.
And I think that's a 40-second penalty there, Nick.
We saw Keith Sharp do that in the Skippies, didn't we?
We did. Yes.
It was the very same track, wasn't it, as well?
It was, yeah. It caught him out dramatically and cost him I believe that cost him the lead as well, the win as well, Nick.
Absolutely did. And now that means that Lamy is probably going to get out ahead, I believe. Oh no, Will Mason's out. So Lamy's still in the pits as well, actually. So I wonder if anybody else has made the same error, because Lamy looks like he's having a bit of a...
Let's go and have a little bit of... take a look at Jerome Lamy's pit entry. That's...
It looks okay, I think, on the first time
we
watched it.
Let's see if he's fallen foul of the same...
He has. I think he has.
He has. Wow, that's two drivers now who've been caught out where they're trying to push it out so hard out of the last corner, and they've fallen foul and incurred penalties. So this is really going to shake up the top end of the grid, and now we've got Josh Wilson up in fifth. I know he's going to drop down again, obviously, where he's going to have to stop again for fuel. He's in the pit lane now, so we'll watch him come down the order a little bit. But wow, the front of the grid is completely shaken up now. Now look, we've got Chris Rowlands up in third place.
Lee Aberdeen, what a finish that's going to be for him. P1 if he manages to hold that in the last 10 laps of the race. Matt Lucia obviously having is over an 8-second gap to close up to Lee Aberdeen. Whether or not he'll be able to do that. Lee Aberdeen currently his fastest lap a 1:15.7 and Matt Lucia a 1:15.4. So if Lee Aberdeen can hold it together for the remainder of the race, then absolutely we should see him on the top spot at the end of this. Now Chris Rowlands in third place. He's taken his pit stop and he's on the podium, so that's a great result for Chris, who always tends to be one of these guys that we see just relaxing in the middle, doing his job, doing what he has to do, keeping it safe, and then coming out on top just through being damn sensible and getting the job done. So great stuff there from Chris Rowlands. He is going to have maybe James Cochran trying to chase him a little bit. There's a 3-second gap there at the moment, so we'll see what happens between those guys. But then Will Mason will be looking to make his way back up the order in the last 9 laps if he can. As we ride back here with Lee Aberdeen up into Surtees and just drop that long straight before we head into the second half of the circuit. Now Lee Aberdeen, great drive from him. As I said, we did have some unfortunate results from the previous races, but Lee Aberdeen on the points chart is actually 9th at the moment. So he's 69 points. He was actually joint 8th technically, Stuart Milne, who's also on 69 points, and not really very much separates the likes of him and Cullen and Cochrane. So a win here tonight for Lee will surely propel him up the order. 40 points would put him on around 100, which would potentially springboard him ahead of some of the other guys in the midfield.
Now, Nick, this is Edmond Webb. Yeah, you just saw just off camera where he's managed to get ahead of Carl Cranswick there as Cranswick was exiting the pits and not back up to speed yet. And that's a position up, and he's up to 12th place, up 5 places overall, Nick.
That's great stuff there from Edmond Webb. Now, obviously, the top place gainer today is Matt Lucia. We can't forget some of the others on the grid, though, such as Ben Cullen with 10 places at the moment, Chris Rowlands with 3. So some great stuff from all of these guys. We're going to go over to Ben Cullen now, who we just mentioned, and he is chasing along behind Will Mason at the moment. A gap to Will Mason currently at 10 seconds.
So
So he's
Lawson not too far behind him. He's 3 seconds down the road, and that gap seems to be sort of like closing up a little bit as Patrick Bennett's headed to the pits there. And
he needs to close up a lot, not a little, really, with the 8 laps to go.
So only really this great action yet again. I can't believe there's only 8 laps to go, Nick.
Yeah, these races do fly by when you're enjoying the views, and what a great view we do get from trackcamps22.com here as we look at these fantastic angles. Racing here on obviously into the bend of 30s, the left-hander with Ben Cullen as he tries to get it past. I believe
Edmond Webb.
Edmond Webb, yeah. So Edmond Webb hopefully going to let him.
Doesn't seem to be passing him too easy, or he's a bit of an interesting one here, Nick, because I don't know how much whether Ben's just sitting behind him, or let's ride on board with him. Oh no! Oh, Ben Cullen's. Ben's run into the back of him, and it destroyed his rear wing, and that's his race done.
That is a shame. That's almost exactly what we were seeing with Gavin Petty. There was a faster car trying to get past, a guy who's further back down the grid, which resulted that attempt to get past has sort of resulted in an absolutely fatal accident for the driver. So that is a shame for Ben Cullen. He's out of this race. With only 7 laps to go, we're not going to see him back trying to climb back up your road. We really did curse it again.
Yes, let's take a look at here, Nick, at what happened. Webb got a poor exit, and that was it for Cullen. He was carrying so much more speed through the corner, and it gave him a one-way ticket to the rear end of Edmond's car, and then to the barrier as his front wing went.
That's the problem here, though. If you're a confident driver and you're absolutely nailing it, you know your lines, you know your route through here, where to hit the brakes, and you come behind a guy like that, and you're trying to be patient, you're trying to maintain a sensible distance so you can then get a good exit and then get the run on them for where they're slower on the exit of the corner. But if you keep it too close and they have an error like we obviously just witnessed there, then it is a complete catastrophe for everybody
Dobson
involved.
Making his way past their past the Edmond Webb accident, but Matt Lausch has come off track. Oh, big switch there, Nick, and got very lucky that he didn't lose the car there. That's around Surtees, and took it across the gravel, but managed to avoid that incident there.
That was very nearly Chris Rowland's happy time, wasn't it? Matt Lucia going off track and been in the car with only 6 laps to go. Chris Rowland's have been rubbing his hands and saying, P2, all for me. We go on board here with Lee Aberdeen, who's just going around that very same bit of circuit that we saw Matt Lucia, obviously having a bit of a whoopsie on there, but an off track. And Lee Aberdeen has been incredibly consistent through this last phase of the race, where he's been just keeping it nice and tidy. That gap has only come down a little bit from Lucia. If you remember, it was about 7 or 8 seconds before, and now we're only at 6.5, which really just go to show what Lee Aberdeen is able to do in this Dallara Formula 3 car. He's a little bit wider there in turn 1 than maybe would like to be, but then as we head up now into Druids, let's see how tight he is on the inside of Druids. He's brilliant there, all over the curves. Nice exit there, and it looks to me like he's going to just cruise through the last 5 laps of this race at a relatively sensible pace and claim his victory. Put a stake in the land with Aberdeen.
Now, Nick, a nice little factoid, an interesting one. Last time around, Matt Lauscher was about 0.8 of a second quicker than Lee Aberdeen. There's 5 laps to go. There's a 6-second gap. This is going to be tight, but it is, if he can continue at that sort of pace difference, he could catch him. And we've seen, just as we look now, Lauscher's already taken 2 attempts out of Lee Aberdeen. This could be very close, Nick. We could be in for a bit of a grandstand finish to Season 1 of the F3 League.
With 5 laps to go, I think that...
Oh, I think Lauscher's... he's come off track, Nick. Here we go. Let's take a look. Same place again. Surtees. Oh, he's had a spin. We'll see if we can get that from a different angle, Nick. And
see if we get on board with him, maybe. I don't know if he hit the wall there, but...
Caught it on the grass, Nick.
Yeah, just another one of those incidents, really, isn't it, where we've seen people fall before, including him. So all of these top guys pushing so hard, and then every inch that they take is sometimes just a bit too much. That's 14 seconds that gap now. You've cursed it again, Tim.
I have,
Just
yeah, it's completely my fault.
You asked the genie for a battle, and he did not deliver. So unfortunately, that's looking like without incident, Lee Aberdeen, the strong front runner at the moment for the win.
We've got a few other incidents, so let's have a little look at where drivers' obviously tyres started to affect them. It looks like Matt Lauscher, I think he might have been off track again, Nick. Let's see if we can take a little look at what's happened. It's maybe the unbreakable Matt Lauscher is...
That's the same incident.
That's the same incident, I think.
Oh, he had front wing damage though by the looks of it on the second time. Because look at that, there you go.
There we go. That's going to be costing him dearly. And then this was the previous one, which was exactly the same place. So no, he's come off twice, Nick.
He was much quicker in the first incident that you see, but he had the pace, and that just allowed him to keep it in a straight line almost. I think he was going that quick on the exit that he just flew in a straight line. Oh look, there's
okay, quick.
And a replay there of someone going off track. It's like you can keep them in a line here. You can recover these F3 cars. It's not entirely impossible.
No, it's not entirely impossible, Nick. And but it just goes to show where these drivers have really scrubbed a lot of the tread already and grip out of these tyres when they've been pushing so hard. Brands, very intensive in terms of corner after corner, real, high downforce, where the car's obviously being pushed hard into the ground thanks to the aero package on the Dallara F3, and obviously increasing tyre wear, and the drivers obviously started to struggle a bit as the last few laps, with 3 laps to go, where last few more. I mean, just having a look, Paul Mason just popping in a really quick time there. Last time around 1:15.6, but drivers just seem to have all calmed down a little bit now and spaced out a little bit.
Yeah, we've got some gaps now in the pack, which is obviously going to allow these guys a bit of breathing room, and it is going to obviously slow down the action on the screen. But we'll carry on here. We're just with Duncan Roberts at the moment. He's just trying to close up a little bit of a gap here and see if he can make it up to the back of Wilson.
There is a back marker in between them. I'm not too sure who that is. That's number 57, which is Carl Cranswick. So Carl obviously a lap down there, and let's just see this one plays out. Yeah, it was so unfortunate.
Strong outing here in the skippies, but real shame to see him a little bit further down, and to have an incident on turn 1 of the final race. It's a bit gutting, isn't it? So I think we'll be speaking to Carl hopefully after the
we'll be trying to get an interview with him, and obviously Carl set up the F3 league, so it'd be great to hear to him. Obviously as season 1 comes to a close with just 2 laps to go, left us what has been 6 weeks of some absolutely epic battles, Nick.
It has been, and it's not over yet. There's plenty more action to be seen on the iRacing UK Twitch channel, and obviously if you want to get involved in any of the leagues that you've seen on the channel, it's www.facebook.com/iRacingUK. Hit us up over there, get an invite to the channel, and we'll be happy to have you over on the Discord for plenty of the races that we've got coming up in the future. If you're watching this obviously on YouTube, read out a couple of events for you, but these dates might not be relevant if you're watching this in the past. We've got an iRacing UK versus German sim racing event coming up tomorrow at 8 PM. We'll be going head to head with another club, not for the first time, but we're definitely looking forward to this one this Friday. Not to mention we've also got some other things coming up, such as the Race of Champions. The Race of Champions is an event we've got on June the 12th. It's comprised of all the winners of our leagues and then winners from the iRacing Community League Challenge. Speaking of which, the iRacing Community League Challenge round 7 is going to be the IMSA pilot on Brands Hatch this time around, I believe. I'm not sure that's correct.
That was last week. But
that was last week.
This is the final lap, mate, and here comes Lee Aberdeen, mate.
Yeah, let's just see Lee over the line here, and a fantastic race from Lee. He's really made the most of the incidents that have happened ahead of him, and great to see here Lee Aberdeen managing to take the top spot finally after a whole season of not being able to claim glory. That's a great drive from Lee, and really, really happy to see him. Matt Lucia continues to lie
Let's
in
go
second.
take a look at this little battle. Will Mason on James Cockrell. Let's see if I can get across to it quick enough. No, he's not going to. He's going to run out of time. He's closed up on the last lap, but not close enough, unfortunately, for Mason.
No, not this time around, unfortunately. Well, good job from Will, though, after obviously having dropped back down the order from that incident he had earlier. Good to see him back in P5 and gaining a few points back, albeit not much he could do about the charge from Matt Lucia, even with those couple of incidents from Matt later in the lap that we saw. So, real shame there for those guys not being able to quite make up those points in the last bit of the season. Good job from Lee Aberdeen. So we'll run you obviously through the results now that you can see on the screen. So in P1 we have got Lee Aberdeen, and that's the qualifying results.
No, that's qualifying results. Excuse that one. Let's go back to We'll go back to this screen and we'll take a look.
I can read it off for you here. So we've got Lee Aberdeen there in P1, followed by Matt Lucia, and then Chris Rowlands in P3. James Cochran brings up P4, and then Will Mason, who we saw chasing hard at the end, in P5. Josh Wilson has P6, followed by Duncan Roberts. Then we've got Mark Hudson, Sam Hooper, and then Carl Cranswick in P10. Patrick Bennett comes in 11th, the first one outside of the top 10, followed by John Dobson, Ben Cullen, Edmond Webb, Jerome Lamy, Chris Foskett, and Gavin Petty. Real shame to see the likes of Gavin Petty, Jerome Lamy, and Ben Cullen down there in the guys that are out of the race this evening. There you go. That's the qualifying there again on the screen. We've had a great night tonight. It's been absolutely fantastic here to speak to witness all of the drivers out there on the track. Now we are going to try and head
Nick,
over
we've
to
just been joined by the commentary box by Chris Rowlands, and Chris, can you hear us?
Evening, lads. You all right?
Evening, Chris. And Nick, I think, do you want to go first, mate? While I'm just totting up got to get my calculator out and my abacus out to try and toss up the points ready for the championship.
Well, yeah, absolutely, Chris. I mean, obviously, you've been in the commentary box. You know what it's like in here, and you know how thrilling it is to watch these races. But to see you up in P3 after seeing you kind of like floating around the middle pack for a large portion of the race, how does that feel? It was great to see you making your way back up onto the podium for the finale.
Yeah, it feels good. I didn't expect it. Very cautious on lap one. Sort of cautious the whole way round, which is my whole modus operandi, really. I'm a rubbish overtaker. Didn't make a single overtake to get this podium, which I can be smug about. And I even made an overcut work on James Cochran in the pits somehow. Again, no idea how, but it feels good.
Yeah, we did see that. It looked awesome. I mean, there's a few people that had absolute tragedies today. You managed to avoid all of that. I mean, what was going through your mind for the majority of the race?
Just panic. That's the way it is to drive in F3. Really, I don't quite know how Carl and Josh didn't collect me on turn one, lap one. But cold tyres are an absolute killer in any car, let alone the F3. So I was just happy to make it round at that point, really.
Excellent stuff. And how's the injury these days? Obviously, you had to take a little break from the Formula 3 racing earlier in the season due to injury. So how's that feeling at the moment?
Last few laps, I was very aware of it. I figured I'd be fine because I did a Le Mans 60-minute race in the LMP2 yesterday, and it wasn't good. It survived, so I assumed it would be nice and easy round Brands Hatch in the F3. But yeah, sore now. It will be the only racing I do this evening, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, we've thoroughly enjoyed watching you out here this evening, Chris. So thanks very much for giving us some spectacular racing. Now, I'm going to read you out the championship standings, viewers. We've got Matt Lucia there, obviously in P1 at the top.
bit wide into the pit lane, sadly.
You did indeed.
Yes.
It's interesting because we saw you in the pits and we saw you overtaken by a couple of people, obviously end of the pit stop. So we went back to the replay. But you know who else I think also did this was Jerome as well. I think he also took quite a wide entry to it. But funnily enough, we were saying on the stream, on the broadcast, that we actually saw the same in the Skippy League. So Keith Sharp made the same error and lost the lead coming into the pits like that. So you're not the only person. Will, don't worry about it. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people in the officials that have made a similar error. Now, going into this race, knowing that you could have potentially taken the championship away from Matt, what was going through your mind at the start of the race?
Yeah, so I was thinking it was looking pretty good. I came into it with low expectations because I've not really done much around brands before. But obviously qualified P2, so things were looking up, and Matt was slightly down the field, so I thought, go for it and see what happens. And clearly got into the lead and established a fairly comfortable lead. Obviously I didn't quite have the pace with Lee, but it's quite an easy track to keep people behind, so I was thinking get through the pit stop and keep ahead of Lee, and then obviously you never know what's going to happen with Matt. Didn't want to wish him any misfortune, but obviously I saw with the relative that he was having a few issues, a few off-track moments, or I don't know if there's some issues with back markers going on, but kind of all I could do was go for the win. Sadly I failed on that tonight, but Matt's been great all season, so big congrats to him, and best lap time tonight, so he's clearly fastest in the field tonight, so amazing job by him.
Obviously he managed to pick up 13 places, obviously, from his starting position, and he had a few incidents around 30s of, I think, consecutive laps. I think laps 19 and 20, I think, was it, Nick, where he just touched the grass and had either spun it or had trips all over the gravel trap, and that's what cost him the large amounts of time, and probably what cost him the
first incident. He pretty much glided across the glass because of the pace, the grass, because he had the pace that just carry him back onto the tarmac comfortably and then get it under control in the braking. But the second time cost him a front wing, so that was kind of the end of the charge, really, wasn't it? But thanks very much for obviously
joining
joining
us. Nick,
us.
I've got one last question for Will. Obviously, we've had seen you have lots of battles all season. Have there been any particular highlights for yourself across the whole season?
Yeah, I think so. Probably with Gavin Petty, I've had a good few battles with him. I think Matt's kind of been away from me. I've never really been will to will with him. So I remember my battles with Gavin best. He's given me some tips along the way. So grateful to him for that. And thanks to you guys as well for the coverage. And I know Sean's done a lot in the background. And last but not least, also to Carl Cranswick for putting on a great series. So thank you to everyone.
Well, speaking of Carl Cranswick, we're actually going to go over to him now. So thanks very much for speaking to us this evening, Will. And Carl, welcome to the commentary booth, somewhere where we've obviously spoken to you before as a member of the commentary team. How was that for you tonight?
Rubbish.
Toto Wolf would say it's a bad day at the office, yeah?
It was a bad day at the office. I think Mazepin would have done better than I did tonight. First corner. And I think... it was quite a loose track, and I can only think it's because I was just attacking from a slightly different angle. I didn't have any power on, just a bit of brake and steering, not just whipped straight around. And apologies to Josh, who I think took the front of it as well, and ruined his race. So essentially, for the rest of the time, we were both just hot lapping around Brands.
It was a bit of a tight incident really at the start, where I've just showing up on the replay now where...
No, don't show it again.
No. It was just one of those such unfortunate things, obviously, the way that corner is, and the track drops down, and it's just one of those unfortunate racing incidents really, and especially the cold tyres in the F3 as well.
Yeah, but I'm the guy who does a race briefing before it all starts. Take it easy on lap one. Tyres are cold.
Well, you said yourself,
and I'm the one that.
You said yourself you went on the power, so it's all right. We can forgive you one. So obviously you were speaking about the league and how you obviously were the genesis of the league. How does it feel to see it come to a close after 6 weeks, or 12 weeks really, between the rounds, but 6 rounds of racing and the result that we've seen this evening?
Yeah, good. I mean, Matt's been pretty dominant throughout, hasn't he? So, we needed something pretty massive to happen for him to be knocked off top spot. But you know, everyone's put in time and practice. We've had some new faces throughout the season. We've had some other people fall away. A bit quieter tonight, but you know, there's a lot going on this week. But numbers have been really good for the rest of the season. You know, I'm really pleased with how it went. I think if you look at most broadcasts, probably not this one, generally the standard of the F3 racing has been really high. Incidents have been really low, and you know, for such a delicate car, the racing has been close and very fair. So you know, from that point of view, really happy with how it's gone.
Favourite race of the season so far, Carl?
For me, it's probably Watkins Glen.
I would agree.
I love that circuit anyway. I can't remember where I finished. But you know, it's a great circuit. My worst performance probably here. I think
Watkins Glen, you came 5th.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good result for me. I'm not the fastest guy in the car. I think the worst performance was definitely tonight. I think if I was to use one word to describe it, it would be placid.
Lovely. I think that is a good way to describe it tonight. I think definitely it's definitely been placid. Oh dear, it's I mean, just sort of going back again to tonight. Obviously, you know, obviously you mentioned Watkins as well, and how's the car been? Obviously, you know, it's been more enjoyable through the the high speed corners, probably what you might call the like the more active turns.
Yeah, probably. You know, although Brands is very much like that, but you know, you would have seen everyone struggle tonight. You know, loads of off tracks, loads of spins, loads of crashes. It's such a fine line here. So I think, you know, if you look at Watkins Glen, it's just a bit more forgiving. You know, there's a couple of areas where you've got to be careful. But Brands, you know, it just punishes the smallest mistake. So,
well, yeah, we also. That's all right. No, I was just saying, obviously, about whether F3 handles around the more sort of like powerful, more flowing sort of active turns that that you have around the tracks. But yeah, obviously tonight we saw a couple of the guys as well just picking up penalties for their pit entry as well, where they had unsafe pit entries cutting across the green, painted like tarmac, AstroTurf, and yeah, this sort of cost them dearly. Obviously, it cost it was Will Mewson, and I'm trying to think who the other one was now,
Jerome.
Nick. Yeah, Jerome was as well. So obviously we saw it a couple of weeks prior as well with Keith Sharp in the Skippy League as well. So yeah, it's been quite an eventful night to say the least, and an eventful season, but full of some absolutely great racing.
Absolutely. On to season 2, whatever that might be.
Yeah, we look forward to that very much. So yeah, that'd be amazing to see that happening again here in the iRacing UK Discord community. So thank you very much for joining us, Will Mason and Carl Cranswick, for the final round of interviews for this season. So it goes without saying that this has been an epic experience throughout. Just has